So in today's session, we will continue with the previous session. That is, we have stopped at SLT, SAP Landscape Transformation. Just I will try to give a 2 to 3 minutes recap on what we have seen in the previous session. So in the previous session, we were trying to discuss about the difference between load, stop, suspend, resume, and replication. So load is one time, replication continuously replicating of data from source to target, stop permanent halt, suspend temporary, the data is halted at logging tables, and then resume, again data is back to HANA by deleting the entries from the logging table. So before to that session, we see the configuration of various activities that are done by the HANA administrator. A HANA admin creates an RFC connection between ECC and SLT, and SLT to HANA is a DB connection. So once he creates a configuration, a mass transfer ID is generated, and then there are jobs which are running in the background continuously replicating data from source to target. And once the configuration is successfully created, tables like DD02L, 2T and 8L are replicated, are in process of continuously getting changes from source to target. So in today's session, what we will see is, we'll continue from the previous session, which is advanced replication settings. In the advanced replication settings, we have a transaction code, which is IUUC_REPL_content. The use of this transaction code, let me log into system first. Let me log into system. Let's give the username and password. Click OK. So let us log on to ECC. Let's go to SAP logon. In the SAP logon, let's go to ECC. Now you know SLT can be installed as a separate host, or it can be installed on the ECC. So now we are logging into the ECC system and enter the transaction code IUUC_REPL_content and click enter. So once you click enter, here you see the available configuration. Now select the configuration and click select configuration. Click on select configuration, and here you see add source table. You can add a table name. So what was the table that we have taken the other day? Let me just check. Let us just try to check what tables we have taken. So for example, so is my voice okay? Is there any issue in my voice? You have some disturbance coming in, is it? Okay. I think the video cut. Yes, from disturbance is there. I think it should be okay. Okay, so So now let us take this table Z MTB underscore SLT. So now what we can do using this table, so basically when you're replicating this table, if the status of the table is being replicated, let me go to LTRC. Let me go to LTRC first. And give the mass transfer ID 047 and click execute. So let me basically first stop unwanted tables. Let me stop unwanted tables first. So what am I trying to do here is I'm just stopping unwanted tables which I don't require for this exercise, and then I will try to use the advanced replication settings. Let me go to data provisioning, click stop load / replicate, click on the multiple selection, enter all the tables which you don't require, and click execute and execute. Failed action, stop load / replicate. And the configuration is stopped. Okay. Let me stop again. Just I'm trying to stop these tables. Just give me 2 minutes. So that we don't get stuck, because of limited system resource, so we had to stop these tables. Let me just clear this. Okay, so we stopped all the tables except DD02L, 2T and 8L. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this table which is Z MTB underscore SLT. I'll just take this table and let's go to LTRC. Let's go to LTRC and let's start replicating this table. Click on data provisioning, okay, and let's click start replication and click execute. then click start replication, click execute. So once you click execute, click refresh. So once we refresh, now this table is being scheduled. Let's go to HANA Studio. Let us click on start. Let us click on start and let's click HANA Studio. So let us check this table gettmb underscore SLT. Let us check the table gettmb underscore SLT. So let us log into HANA. Right click, log on. Let's provide the password. So let's expand the catalog and let's go to the schema SLT. Let's go to SLT CC, expand, and let's right click on tables, filter, give the table name, whole word, and click OK. So now you see the table. Now we check the status of the table, click refresh. Now please see gettmb underscore SLT. The action is replicate and the status is in process. Okay, so let's say the table is being replicated now. Now during the replication process, now if you change the structure of the table, so now I'm moving on to the transaction code IUUC REPL underscore content. Now let us provide the table name over here, which is gettmb underscore SLT, and click add. So we added the table, and then select the table and click on edit settings for selected table. Just click on this. Once you click on this, click on the plus icon, which is insert row. Now once you click on the insert row, now here if you see there are few settings over here. If you can notice, no drop. If you do not want to drop the table, if you want to table to replicate as a row store, you can check this. And at the corner you have edit table structure. When you click on edit table structure, now here you see this is the source table definition, and this one is the new table structure. And here you see modifications of the table structure. So source table definition, new table structure, and modifications of the table structure. When the table is being replicated, you can click on the plus icon. If you want to basically modify, let's say you don't want all the columns to be replicated, you can remove columns that you don't want to replicate. Select VV070. So this column you don't require, so I'm just trying to remove. So you can only replicate the required columns rather than replicating the entire table. Continue. Click on the plus icon again. If you want to change data type or length for a particular column, so length I give it as 20 and click continue. So I'm basically changing the deviation type. One is remove, the other one is change. I'm making modifications. So am I making the modifications to the source table? Basically I'm making two modifications for the table that is existing at the SLT. I'm not touching the source definition. I'm only making modifications to the structure which is present in the SLT. So once I make modifications, you can click on new calculate new structure. Click on calculate new structure. Once you click, now here you see this is the new table definition. BUKRS, VKWRG and VV010. So in here VKWRG is 10, but here it is 20. And here you have fourth column ZVV070, but here we don't see any column. And click continue. And click save. Save the configuration. Customizing configuration for SLT schema. For schema SLT ECC saved. Click continue. Click back. Save again. So click save until you come to the first screen. Click on saving the configuration. And let us go back to SLT, LTRC, and now the table is being replicated. So let's go to data provisioning. Now if you see the table that it has, the table has 4 columns which is already replicated over here. BUKRS, VKWRG, VV010 and 70. But I have made modifications to the existing table. Okay, so when I make modifications, what I will try to do now, I will basically stop replication, click execute. Let us stop, click refresh. So let's refresh. And then even you have a provision to change the name. Suppose say you don't want to overwrite the existing table. You have a provision in LTRC. Select configuration. Select the table. Click edit settings for selected table. So you can specify the target table name. Let's say you want to rename the table to ZMTB or Z sales order 6. Just trying to rename the table. Click save. Continue. Come back and save again. Let's come back to the initial screen. So let's go back to LTRC. Let's go back to LTRC now. Click data provisioning and click on start load or start replication, whatever, and click execute. Start replication, click execute. So I'm replicating the same table again, click execute. The table schedule with action start replication. Now let's come back and then let us try to refresh. Let's try to refresh. Let me remove the filter. And now let's go to the data provisioning editor. Now please check here, there is a new table that will be replicated. So again, ZTMB underscore SLT replicate schedule. So what is the name that we have given? We change the name of the table. I've changed Z sales order 6. So let us see whether the table is being replicated here. The replication is scheduled. Let's wait for some time. So it's been still scheduled. Logging table has been created now. Let's come back. Refresh. Still the table is not replicated. Let's check the status again. Let's go back to LTRC. Now during the replication, now please see ZMTB underscore SLT is being replicated, but the replication here is still initial load. Then it's still trying to process. So let us go to SM37 to check the status of the jobs. Let's go to SM37 to check the status of the jobs. So the jobs are active, and if you want to check any logs for these jobs, so in the LTRC, here you have application logs. Click on the application log, click on filter. So this is, we're just trying to troubleshoot why this particular table is being just replication initial load. Just copy the table, go to the application logs, and then click on filters and provide the table name and click. So basically you're displaying all the logs. Click continue. So anytime in SLT, if you have any issue, you can just go to the application logs and select all logs. So let us go back and check meanwhile. You see there is an error over here. Problem class important. Let's check what is the error. Program error RFC SLT. So there is some So let's check the RFC. In the mass transfer ID 047, it says let us go to SM37, sorry, SM57. Let's check the RFC. It is SM59. Let's check the RFC. Let's see what RFC we are using here. RFC underscore SLT. So let's check for RFC underscore SLT. So I'll just check this offline. So there is some issue in the RFC connection. I'll just try to check this in the offline. So what I'm trying to explain here is, so once you basically modify the structure, now you'll have two tables. In the IUUC REPL content, when you modify the structure, so now you'll have two tables. One is with jet sales order 6, and also you'll have the old table. So you'll have both the tables. The old table, which is already there, which you have information views on the old table. You have to manually adjust the old tables to the new table. For example, now here you have a schema, and you have table 1, and then you have table 2. Both of them are pointing to the same table on the source system. So both these tables are pointing to the same table on the source system. So one which we have, which is not modified, and the other one which is a modified. This one is the sales order 6, and this one is the old, this is the old table, which is jet MTB, So it's not going to disturb this table. You will have the old table as well as the new table. So whenever you make any changes to the source table, the data will be reflected in the new table. It disconnects from the old table. So whatever the views that you have that are pointing to the old table, you have to manually adjust to point to the new table. So that is what I'm just trying to show you here. So whatever the old tables are there, you can delete and manually adjust the information views to the new table. So you can modify structures, you can add columns, delete columns, you can update existing columns in IUUC REPL_content. Also the ABAPers, if they want to write transformation, if you want to transform data, so here you have IUUC_as rule map. If you click on as rule map, if you click on the plus icon, the ABAPers can write include programs. So they can write an include program, they can insert an include program for data transformation. But all this has to be done in ABAP, and then you can include the program over here. You can also insert the line of code. So if you go to this table, which is, let me create session. Let us go to SE11. Go to SE11, click enter. And give so this IUUC ASS_RUL_map. If you come down, here you see there is a column which is code. The field name is code. So you can write until a length of 72. 72 chars line of code can be written directly at the insert line of code. Now if your code is larger than 72, then you have to write an include program and insert this program over here. So that will be taken care by the ABAPer. So you can do transformation of data, you can edit the table structures, you can change the name of the table. So all these things that you can do in the IUUC REPL_content. Now one more thing, in SLT, whenever you change a table that is already been replicated, now you have a table and the table is being replicated. Let's say you have added a column into the table. Whenever you add a column in your table, if the SLT service pack is greater than SP8, automatically the column will be reflected in target table. If it is less than SP8, you have to drop the target table, re-replicate the table again, because the DB trigger has to be adjusted. But in case of SP8, whenever you add or whether you delete any columns or make any modifications to columns on the source table, automatically the changes will be taken care in HANA. Automatically the changes will be reflected to the metadata of the table. Now if it is less than SP8, you have to manually drop the tables and re-replicate the table again. And the second point, whenever you are changing the keys of a table, so when you change the keys of the source table, the changed keys will not be reflected in HANA. So in that case, you have to manually drop the entire table and re-replicate the table. So there are two scenarios. One is Adding a non-key field, automatically the field will be replicated to HANA. Now when you have a key field, the column will not be reflected. You need to drop and re-replicate the table again. SLT is not only used to replicate data from ECC to HANA, but also you can replicate data from ECC to BW also. SLT can be used from ECC to another ECC system when you're doing data migration from lower version to an higher version, or when you want to replicate data from one ECC system to another ECC system, you can still use SLT. So in this case, it is an RFC connection, and here also it is an RFC connection. But the tables are not automatically created in ECC. You have to manually create, or the table should already be existing on the ECC. Only data gets replicated. But in HANA, both metadata and data gets replicated. But when your source and target is ECC system, the structures should already be in place, and data gets replicated to ECC. And one more scenario is when you want to replicate data from ECC to BW, you can also use SLT to replicate data to BW. So in BW, the data is replicated to PSA, persistent staging area. It can be replicated to a PSA, that is the initial table in BW. So in this case also both are RFC connections, ECC to SLT and SLT to BW. So both are RFC connections. Now when you have a non-SAP system, the read modules will not be on the source system. The read modules will be on the SLT system. When you have a non-SAP system, the read modules will be on SLT. But when you have an SAP system, the read modules will be on ECC system. The connection between a non-SAP and SLT will be a DB connection, and SLT to HANA is again a DB connection. ECC to SLT is an RFC, and SLT to HANA is a DB connection. So when you're replicating tables from non-SAP, still the metadata of the non-SAP tables is stored in the tables DD02L, 2T and 8L. So all the metadata related information is stored in DD02L and 2T, the same tables that are used for SAP. Even in non-SAP tables are stored in those tables. So this is about SLT. So if you have any questions on this from the SLT perspective, you can ask me. So before we move on to the next topic, which is business objects data services. So 1 minute. I think most of you are sending. You're not able to create a table on the ECC. So if you go to ECC and then do SC11, you should be able to create. Able to create, right? So you need to start with Z or Y when you're trying to create tables. Please start with Z or Y. So it's SAP standard to start with Z or Y. Always it is SAP standard to start with Z or Y. So RFC is created by basis. All the RFC connections are taken care by basis. We are not going to create in real working environment. We don't have authorization to create RFC. That is done by the basis administrator. So you can always create entries on the table. Even on the standard table you can create entries, but you need to use transaction codes. So you can use VA01 to create a sales order. Automatically all the entries will be updated in the backend tables, and these tables can be replicated. If you want to do that exercise, you can do, but you have to take a sales order which is referencing. You can take an order as a reference and create, then the entries will be posted in the table. Instead of creating on the table level, you can create using the front-end transaction code. So if we change the source system content, will it reflect the change in the target table? Whenever you change the source structure, automatically it will be reflected in the target, but you need to have the latest SLT service pack. If you have the old, then it doesn't. You have to manually delete and recreate the table. The advanced application settings are basically used to control columns, or when you want to massage data, when you want to apply some transformations. An ABAPer can write transformation where he can do filtering on a particular year or on a particular column. If you want to change, or if you want to delete, if you want to add new columns, then you can use advanced application settings. But most of the time in SLT we don't write complex logic. The reason being, now if you write complex logic, the latency, you have a lot of latency because the logic has to be executed at the SLT level. Now, whenever you have complex data transformation, always it is better to use BODS, Business Objects Data Services, for doing data integration, data quality, and to massage data. Always use BODS. BODS is rich in transformation and also it does batch processing of data. SLT primary use case is only real time, but still you can write transformations, but complex logic needs to be avoided and to be used in BODS, especially data quality, data transformation. If we create a sales order, will data be automatically updated in the database table? Yes. So let us move on to the next topic. We'll move on to the next topic. If you have any doubts, we will again discuss. Once the RFC is up, we can discuss that exercise once again. So let's move on to the next exercise, which is on the business objects data services. So as you know, when we started to discuss about data provisioning, you know there are 4 types of data provisioning. One is SLT, the second one is BODS, third one is DXC, then fourth one is smart data access. Now BODS is an ETL tool. It is rich in transformation of data. In BODS, you know there are 2 UIs. One is the data services designer. The second one is the data services workbench. Workbench is the new UI and the designer is the old UI. There are 2 important components in BODS. One is the repository and the second one is the job server. So let me just go to Paint. So BODS stands for Business Objects Data Services. In Business Objects Data Services, you have 2 important components. One is the job server. The second one is the repository. Now what is a repository? A repository is nothing but collection of metadata. And job server is responsible to move data from source system to target system. The job server is created in a place called server manager, and the repository are created in the repository manager. If you click on start, click on all programs and click on data services 4.2. So here you see you have data services repository manager and the second one is data services server manager. Now whose responsibility is to create the repository and the job server. So that is done by the BODS admin. So BODS administrator takes care of creating the job server and the repository. Now repositories are basically created at the database. Now let's take, in this case, if the database is MS SQL, you can also create the repository in HANA. So when you click on Start, click All Program, click on Data Services 4.2 and click on Data Services Server Manager, and also let us open the Repository Manager. Click on Repository Manager. So in here, in the repository, type is local. A local repository can be created in the following databases: SQL Server, HANA, SQL Anywhere, Sybase ASC. So all these databases support to create a local repository. Now what is a local repository? A local repository is where all the metadata is stored in a place called local repository. The other name for local repository is local object library. So first what we will do is we'll create a database in MS SQL. So in the first step, I will try to show you how we can create a local repository and then assign the job server to the local repository. So usually this is done by administrators, but for us it is good to know because I'm just trying to do from scratch. So first click Start, click All Program, click on Microsoft SQL Server 2008 R2 and click SQL Server Management Studio, and then give the server name as client, give the login name as DB200 and password as DB200 and click Connect. So in here, let us right click on database. Let's create a new database. I'm creating a new database to store the repositories. Let's give the database name as DB555. I'm creating a new database with the database name DB555 and click OK. So let's go to DB555. So here there is a new database created. Expand the database, expand tables. We already have. So this is 55. We're supposed to see 555. Let us right click on database, click refresh. Let's check DB555. Expand database, expand tables. So here we don't see any tables. It's empty. So once the database is created, now let's secure the database. Once we created a database, so let us create a user for the database. Let me right click on login, new login. Let me create a login with DB555. Let us provide SQL Server authentication and password. So let's remove enforce password policy. I'm giving administrative roles. So let's do user mapping. So the database here is DB555. So let's check the database DB555 and the user is DB555. So let me give roles and click OK. So now in this step, so usually in real working environment we'll not have an opportunity to do all these things. So now in the MS SQL we have created a database. The name of the database is DB555 and the username for the database is DB555. So that is the username and this one is the database name. So once this is done, now we'll create a local repository at this database. So now let us click Start, click All Program and click on Data Services 4.2 and click on Data Services Repository Manager. So here we are creating a local repository. Database type is MS SQL Server. Give the database server name. The database server name is client. Database name is DB555. Username is DB555 and password is DB555. So once you provide all the details, now please see now at the DB555 it's empty. So once we start creating, click create. Let me enter the password again and click create. So once you click create, now it's creating a repository. So it started to create a repository. So once it finishes to create a repository, then at the SQL server, when you right click on DB555, click refresh and click tables. So you see all these tables that are created by BODS. So all the information about BODS is stored in these tables. All the importing, exporting of tables, all the configuration related to BODS, everything is stored in the newly created DB555. So now by using the repository manager, we have created a repository which is a local repository. The other name is local object library. So in the local repository we store the container information. The content is transferred using a job server. Now whose responsibility is to create a job server? BODS admin creates a job server and assigns to the local repository. So where is the job server created? In the server manager. So let's click start, click all program, click on Data Services 4.2 and click on server manager. Click on the configuration editor. Now here we see we cannot add as a developer. So I need to log in as an admin user. So I'll log in as an admin user. Click connect. So because I don't have privileges to create a job server in the standard user. So now I'll click on start. Click on all program. Let's go to data services 4.2 and click on server manager. Click yes. So click configuration editor. Click on the configuration editor. So once you click on the configuration editor, here we can click add. So here we can create a job server. The name of the job server is JS 555. So here you can specify the port number. The port number starts from 3500 till 9999. So let me give 55 and click add. So now you're tying up the job server with the repository. The database type Microsoft SQL Server. Database server name is client. Database name is DB 555 and the username DB 555 and password is DB 555. Click apply. Associated repository. Click OK. It says the port number 3555 is not unique. So we need to change the port number. Let me change to 3551 and click OK. So it also says not unique. Let me take 9. So basically we need to have a unique port number. It's all the port numbers are already occupied. Let me take so it has taken the port number which is 3987. So now we are associating the job server to the repository. Click OK and then click close and restart the application. So this will restart data services service on this machine. Click OK. So once you click OK, the service now will restart. So in this step, what have we done? So in this step, what we have done over here is we try to associate closing this. So we try to associate the job server to the repository. So I'll take a very simple example to demonstrate this. Let's say you have an underground tank and you have an overhead tank. Now if you want to transport water from the underground tank to an overhead, so what we do first, we create a pipeline. The pipeline that we technically the pipeline is known as data store. So data store is a name for the pipeline. Now, if you want to transfer the content, which is water, from the underground to the overhead tank, then we need to use a job, nothing but the job server, or also called as motor. Now when you on the motor, the water from source is transferred to target. Now once the motor is off, there is no content in this container, it's empty. In the same way, when you use BODS, when we use business objects data services, in order to connect the source system and target system, we use data stores. One data store we create for source, another data store we create for target. These data stores help to connect to source and to target. So what is the step 1 is to create a repository. Step 2, assign repository to the job server. In the step 3, we need to register the created repositories at the central management console. Now BODS basically has two platforms. One is known as the BOBI platform, and the second one is known as IPS, which is Information Platform Services. So in the BOBI platform, you get ETL as well as data reporting. So let me basically show you the CMC, Central Management Console. Now you see finally the message, the local op repository was successfully created. So let us log into the Central Management Console. So let's go to tools. So there is a folder on your desktop. If you don't have the folder tools on your desktop, you can click start, click on my computer. You can go to the C drive. You can search for a folder called tools. Just copy the folder and get the folder to the desktop, copy paste to the desktop. And then if you double click on the tools folder, in here you see there is SAP Business Objects BI Platform Central Management Console. Double click on this. It opens up the Central Management Console where you can register the repository. Provide the username Surya and the password for this is S capital URYA 1234 and click log on. So once you click log on, so at the bottom of Central Management Console, you see there is an option called Data Services. Click on this icon, Data Services. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to register the repository at the Central Management Console. Click on this icon, which is Configure a new Data Services repository. Click on this icon, Configure, and let's give the name to the repository as Repo 555. Let's give the name as Repo 555 and give the description. Database type, select Microsoft SQL Server. Database server name is client. Port is 1433. This is default. Database name is DB 555. Username DB555 and password is DB555. So once you have provided all the details, click on test connection. So you need to get a message successfully connected to repository. So once you get this message, click OK and click yes and click save. So what is the step number 3? The step number 3, we registered the repository at the CMC, Central Management Console. So once you registered, now obviously a developer needs to log in to access the BODS. In order to access BODS, you need to have a login. So let's create a login at the CMC. So let's create a login at the Central Management Console. So let's go back to Central Management Console and let's click on users and groups. Click on users and groups and then click on the first icon, which is create user. I'm just trying to create a user called BODS user 555. BODS user 555, and then let's give the name. Let's provide the name, give the full name, give the password. I'm giving it the same password. Confirm the password. So user should not change. I'm just unchecking, and password never expires. So what are we trying to do now? We are trying to create a user where I can log into BODS, and finally click create. So once you create, BODS user 555 is created, and close. So now let's go to the user list and search for the newly created user, which is, let me search here, find title BODS user 555 and click find. So here the new user is created. Double click on the user. We have to assign the security for the user. In order to assign the security, click on add principals, or you can make the user to join group, which is an administrators group. I'm just trying to give an administrative privilege to the user, and click OK and click close. Now we have assigned the user to the administrative group. So now you have a repository which is created in MS SQL. We have a job server that is created in the server manager. It was JS 555. Somewhere it is JS 555. So we have created a job server. We have created a repository. And the third step is we have registered the repository at the Central Management Console. We have created a user and assigned the required roles to the user. Now what an admin does is, the admin hands over the user to the developer. So now what a developer does is, now for the first time he will log into the BODS application. So you can click on Start, click on All Program, and click on Data Services 4.2 and click on Data Services Workbench. Now Data Services Workbench is the new UI that SAP has designed based on Eclipse environment. So you can give the username as BODS user 555 and even the password is same, and click log on. So once you click log on for the first time, when you're entering the Data Services Workbench, so for the first time when you all log on, you see a welcome page. A welcome page will be shown to you. It's saying that now you are at the Data Services Workbench. So now let us close the welcome page, and because already I've done few exercises for previous classes, so I'll just close all these things. So you would not be having anything, so it will be empty like this. Let me delete. Everything will be empty. So as a developer, what we need to do now? Now first, as we just discussed, you need to create a connection from BODS to ECC and BODS to HANA. Technically, these are known as data stores. Data store is nothing but a connection. So let us go back. The first thing that you have to do is click New, click Project. Now what is a project? A project is nothing but, it is like a package in HANA where you're trying to group ETL flows. So let us give a project name like SAP COPA project. Now what is the repository that you would like to use for the project? So what repository did we create? If you remember, we registered a repository in the Central Management Console, which is repo So this is the repository we just registered, which is repo 555. So give the repository. Now please see, whatever the activities that you do in the project will be imported to the repository repo 555. And the repo 555 is indirectly pointing DB 555, which is on the MS SQL. So let's go back to data services and click finish. Now we created a project and the project is associated with the repository. Now the next step that we have to do is to connect BODS to source and target. Let us right click on the project, click new and click on the data store. Now what is a data store? A data store is nothing but a connection. So let us provide the data store name as ECC because we are connecting to ECC system. I'm providing the name and description and click next, and then provide the data store type. What is the type of data store that you would like to connect? You're connecting to an SAP application. Select SAP applications and then provide the application server name to which you are trying to connect. So let's go to SAP logon and let's see what is the ECC application server name. Right click on ECC, click on properties and copy the application server, and let us double click on the application server, paste. The username to connect to ECC is Surya, The password is S capital URYA 1234. The client is 800 and the system, let's see what is the system ID. The system ID is 67. So let us provide the system ID, which is 67. Let us provide system ID 67 and click on test connection. So once you click on test connection, now it will check whether it is able to connect to the ECC. So connection test succeeded. Click close and click finish. So once you finish, now we connected to the data store ECC. Now what did we do? We created a data store which is ECC, which is connecting to the ECC system. Let me also create one more data store to connect to HANA. Let's go back. Right click on the project, new, and click on the next data store HANA. I'm creating to connect to HANA. Click next and provide the data store type as database and database type as SAP HANA. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to connect to HANA. So use ODBC. Here you have S. Click no. So we do not have a connection which is connecting to HANA. We are using a native connection. Native connection in the sense we are not using an ODBC but directly connecting to HANA. Give the database server name, HANA server, port number 30715, username, HANA user, and password W capital welcome 1234, and click on test connection. Now we connected to HANA. Click close and click finish. So we have two data stores, one is at the ECC, the other one at HANA. The next thing that we have to do over here, when you double click on the ECC, here you have an option to import tables. Click on tables, click on the second icon, import object by name. So what are we trying to do now? We are trying to import ECC tables to BODS repository. Click on the plus icon and enter the different tables like KNA1, click finish, click T005T, finish, T005U. So whatever the tables that you require, just try to enter all those tables. C1 IDEA. So this is how we initially brought all the tables from ECC to HANA. So once you have all the tables that are imported, click save. So once you click save, you see all these tables are imported to repository 555. Now in order to take the set of tables to HANA, right click on the project, new, and click on replication job. Now what is the replication job? A replication job is used to transfer the containers as well as the content from a repository. It takes the container information and creates in HANA, and data is transferred from the source system to HANA. Let me create a replication job. Let us give a name and the description for the job. Let us give the name. Let's take this name as BODS Hana COPA tables, and click finish. So once you click finish, you can select all the required tables from ECC and drag and drop the tables to the replication job. So you have all the tables you have taken from the repository and you put it onto the replication job. Now where do you want to take all these tables to? The target system, please see, the tables are on the ECC side. I imported all these tables to the repository. Now where do you want to take these tables to? To Hana. So I created a replication job. I've taken all the tables. Now here you see there is a property called target database properties. Click on this icon. Click on the icon and select Hana. The target owner where the table will be created is Hana user schema, and the replication behavior is schema and data. Click validate. Click validate. Validation was successful. And click execute. Once you click execute, now you see what is the job server we created. If you remember, JS555, and the port number is 3987. So now when we are executing a job, click finish. Now we are trying to execute a job, and this job will take the metadata from repository and data from the ECC, and it will transfer the data to Hana. So once you click finish, now the job has started. The job is running. It will show you the speed statistics at the bottom. So let us give it some time. So I think a few more questions from the SLT side. We'll do again. We'll come back once we have the RFC connection adjusted. Then again we'll come back to SLT. Okay. So for now, I'm not able to show any practical on the SLT due to RFC issue. Once it is done, we will revisit again and we can see the practical whatsoever it is necessary. So now basically started the job. It will take some time. The rows loaded are pending. So it started the job and data is being transferred. You can see the rows that are loaded. So you can see the speed statistics. So it is loading around 34,022 rows per second. So this is the speed statistics, and still it is loading CE1 IDA table. So success, all the tables have been loaded. If you come back to Hana, let's go to Hana. Let's close the catalog. Let's refresh. Now let's open the tables from the Hana user schema. We go to Hana user schema, expand the Hana user schema, expand the tables folder, expand the tables, and let's open a table KNA1. Double click on the table, click on runtime information, and if you notice here, when is this table created? August 17. So this is the creation time of the table. So how many rows it loaded? 7,997. What is the total memory consumption? 5,486 KB of data, approximately 5.4 MB of data. So this is how all the remaining tables are created, and then they basically move to Hana. So once they are moved, they are column stores by default, and the table is stored in memory. So in today's exercise, what we're trying to see, I was trying to show you SLT Advanced Replication settings, but unfortunately due to RFC, we were not able to complete the exercise. So just try to show you theoretically on how we can move data from source to target. So whenever you have a table on the source, when the structure is being changed on the source system, if you want to change the structure on the target, you can drop the table and recreate when the table is being replicated. When the table is being replicated, if you want to make changes to the base table, and if the service pack is less than SP8, you have to stop the table. When you stop, DB triggers and logging tables are deleted. When the DB triggers and logging tables are deleted, you can make modifications. You can make modifications to the table, and then you can replicate. But if the same case, if it is SP8, whatever the changes that you do on the source table will automatically get reflected in the target. In one scenario where the changes are not reflected, when it is a key field. When a key field, even for a new service pack that is not reflected, you need to drop the table manually and recreate the table again. The second thing I was discussing about IUUC_REPL_content. The transaction code is basically used when you want to modify the table structures not on the source system, but on the SLT server. If you want to modify table structure on the SLT server, you can use IUUC REPL content, where you can add, update or delete columns from the base table. And also you can apply transformations like filtering data using an ABAP code that you can write in IUUC as rule map. You can write an include program where you can massage data and finally send to target. Now if it is a non-SAP system, the read modules are on the SLT side and the connection is a DB connection. When it is an SAP, you have an RFC. When it's a non-SAP, you have DB connection. For SAP, you have read modules on the source system. For non-SAP, you have read modules on the SLT system. Also, we were trying to discuss you can use SLT for ECC to ECC replication scenarios. But in that case, you need to already have a table on the target. Then you can replicate data from source to target using an RFC connection. When you have a target system BW, you can replicate to PSA. Even you can replicate data from HANA to HANA using an SLT system. So once we completed, then we started with an exercise BODS, Business Objects Data Services. Data services, you can create a repository. Repositories are nothing but collection of metadata. In BODS, there are two main components: Business Objects Data Services. One is the job server, the second one is the repository. The repository holds the metadata, whereas the job server is used to transfer the container, is used to transfer the content information. The containers are at the repository and job server will transfer the content. Repositories are created using repository manager and job server using server manager. We associate repository to the job server when we create the job server. We register the repository at the central management console, create a user, assign appropriate roles, and give the user to a developer. Now a developer logs into system. First thing he will try to do is to create data stores. Data stores are nothing but connections to the source and target. So you can group ETL flows in projects. The next step is to import tables from source to the repository. In order to replicate source tables to HANA, we need to create a replication job. The use of replication job is to transfer the metadata from repository and the content from the source system. So you can schedule or execute in the foreground where the tables are transferred to HANA system. By default, all these tables are column stores and they store data in memory. So further we'll see few more transformations that we can do on the BODS side. Tomorrow we'll start to create a data flow. I kind of little extended today's session because last week we did not have enough sessions, so just I tried to extend today's session. Just I can take 15 to 20 minutes extra on every day so that we can cope up with the classes until today. If you have any questions until here on the BODS, please ask me. Anyway, we are going to see SLT again once the RFC is rectified. I'll try to show you the exercise again. Until then, if you have any questions on BODS, please go ahead. Yugendar? So Yugendar, are you there?
No, sir. This is Bharat, sir.
Oh, Bharat, okay.
Sir.
Okay. So,
Okay, fine.
there's a lot. What is DMIS? DMIS is nothing but it's an add-in. Let us see if few questions are coming in. Could you load today's video today so that we can practice ready for tomorrow? Okay, we'll load today's session. How to import multiple tables using BODS. So if you go to the BODS workbench, and if you can click on ECC and click on import objects, you see you can import bunch of tables. So beside the icon you have something called import objects. So if you can expand the folder, expand subfolder, so you have all the tables that are grouped under different folders. So if you want, you can select any of these tables, and then at once you can just select all the required tables, and then you see there are 7 objects that I selected. Click import. So once you click import, all the tables will be now imported to the repository. So in this way you can import multiple tables to BODS. So SLT primary use case is real time, BODS is batch, BODS is rich in transformation. So tomorrow you can see when we are doing exercises on BODS, when you right click on the project, new, now we can create a data flow. When you create data flow, you can see different kinds of transformations that you have. Here you see you have different kinds of transformations that you have, like readers, loaders, platform transforms, data integration. So all these transformations that you have on the BODS side. So how do we know what tables can be imported to HANA? So we can know by the requirement. So based on the requirement, we select the required tables and import to HANA. So if you want to import, if you don't want to import complete table, let's say, you can expand the table. So if you don't want any columns, you can just right click and delete the columns that you don't want to replicate. Let's say in the replication job, when you execute, let's say you don't want certain columns, you can just select, right click and delete. You can just select the required columns, delete, the columns will get deleted.